Where is Brave and the Bold?
Where is Brave and the Bold? They got a milk carton for that thing. Intentional or not, there's an impression of sort of a little bit of like a loss of control going on here. As you said, sort of feels like he's playing defense. Like he said something that I was just like, come on, man. When he was trying to debunk some of these rumors, he was like, I haven't been on Threads for weeks. And I was like, man, you live on Thread. Like you more on Threads than like any individual troller or poster that's out there.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Jam Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me as always is Mr. Brian Schultz. Lots to talk about, lots to discuss. WB, as we've said, as Brian has said more frequently, that this was going to continue, not to infinity, because we can't go there, but Paramount needs to make the attempt in order to at least attempt to get what they really, really wanted. And it doesn't seem like it is looking good for them, but they're trying. And let's see what happens there. Let's see what's the latest update. James Gunn on Batman 3 and Brave and the Bold. James Gunn has done a lot of defending of what's been happening because of the rumors that have been spread. They're saying one thing and he's defending himself against it, saying certain things that we're going to be getting into to sort of figure out what's going on with Batman. Paradise Lost apparently, according to James Gunn, is not being canceled. And there is the name that we've been tossing around for quite some time, Adrian Arjona, who would be the lead for that film and as the favorite for most people who have been casting this character. On Man of Tomorrow, some name changes or some colons, some whatever it is, he's defending colons now. It's crazy. And Lantern gets a logo and Lantern gets a logo. We haven't seen a logo from them because that's supposed to be coming out when, Brian?
Late summer.
We cannot wait. And Batman 2 writer teases the story for Batman 2. So let's get into it. So what's going on with the WB, Brian? And Paramount. Paramount seems to be really going strong, guaranteeing money that most people, not most, but some people will call questionable. And they're giving them a shot. So what's going on?
Well, I think this has come to the stage that I always expected it to come to, and that I think David Zaslav always intended it to come to, which is a final stages bidding war for something higher than the values that have been published. And I think Paramount, has, to their credit, has kind of been tweaking things at the margin. And I said last time I thought had actually added some real deal value. They kind of wasn't getting picked up in the headline sticker price of $30 a share, but they had basically agreed to pay the breakup fee for Warner Brothers to walk away from Netflix, which was several $1 billion. They also installed a ticking clock on regulatory approval, saying we'll give you $650 million every 3 months that we're not able to get this thing closed. So you start to look at that and you're like, well, it's not quite the same as just saying, hey, we'll give you $35 a share, but it is still money in the door and it is providing, guarantees of a sort. And they also received the benefit of an activist investor who came in and bought a bunch of shares in Warner Brothers and basically said, I'm going to oppose a Netflix deal and try to push this to Paramount. So that got them some votes. So all of that led to Warner Brothers formally reopening talks. And so even though Warner Brothers is still publicly supporting the Netflix bid, they're now saying, we are going to talk to Paramount again. Remember after the whole, David Zaslav was ghosting David Ellison also. So now they're talking again. And so Netflix, trying to maintain some semblance of control, said, okay, we'll give them a 7-day shop period. So basically we are now in the 7 days of where we're supposed to see Paramount's best and final offer. And then Netflix gets 4 days to match or better that. And then that would, in theory, set up a shareholder vote on March 20th. So all of which is to say, kind of what I've been saying all along, is that neither one of these sides wanted to be the first one to really make a real move on raising their bid. But now they kind of have the public air cover to do so. So I think you are going to see that. And I think it's really just going to come down to the number. But I have still maintained that, like, Paramount's living around $30 a share plus these, additional things they've added on. I still think they're going to wind up somewhere in the $33 a share range. I think Netflix probably does end up matching that. And I think if the offers are matched, Netflix is going to win from a vote standpoint, for the simple reason of, I think at the end of the day, there's a little too much complexity and opacity on the side of how involved Larry Ellison is and how clean and firm the backstops are for the Paramount bid. So I think for their bid to win, they have to be above and beyond where Netflix is, because Netflix's financing is pretty clean. It's basically their stock, cash from their own treasury, or cash that they borrow in the credit markets. It's pretty transparent. It's pretty straightforward. I think the Paramount stuff is where it's like, how much is Larry taking out of his own trust? How much of it's coming from the Middle East? Like, there's a little more like, where is the flow of funds? Like, we think it's there. How much does he have to sell Oracle shares to make this happen? There's a few other things there where I think if the numbers are the same, shareholders are going to go for the Netflix because it's cleaner. That's not to say that Netflix has a layup on the regulatory side, but I think there's an acceptance that the deal is so big that there's going to be a lot of regulatory scrutiny either way. And that even if Paramount could lay claim to having a little bit more of an inside track on one side, there is complexity beyond the US that makes that less clear. So just to throw one little nuance here, this isn't really for us. By virtue of Paramount wanting to buy the entire thing, they are actually incurring some regulatory review overseas around things like the sports rights that WB is involved in. Whereas Netflix, by not buying the linear TV, is not subject to review on those points. So these are things that are like at the margin for stuff we care about. But if you're trying to make a claim to shareholders who are voting about regulatory harder here versus easier there, it is not as black and white as political affiliation might lead you to believe. So my point is, I think if the value is even, Netflix is going to win the vote. So Paramount's going to have to figure out a number that they think Netflix would not go to and see if they can pry it that way.
Do you think Netflix wouldn't match whatever they try to go? I mean,
there's a number for sure. There's a number where it does not make sense for Netflix to keep going. I mean, their own stock is down, 40% since this started?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is not, no one is dealing from a position of strength, right? Oracle shares are down a lot. Netflix is down a lot. WB is the only one that has a position of strength because they have two bidders at the table, which ensures they'll get good value for the franchise. But no, there's definitely a number where I think Ted Sarandos would walk. I think it's pretty high. Like, I think at this point he's come this far. I don't think he's going to walk away over the difference between $33 and $34 a share. But if, let's say, Paramount at the 11th hour produces some angel investor that allows them to partner with the Ellisons and take the bid up to, I don't know, make up a number, 40, some astronaut, like some big increase no one sees coming, I think there is a number where Netflix takes the breakup fee and walks. And their stock probably goes up on that because shareholders are sort of saying, we'd rather not deal with the headache. And that's a good disciplined use of capital. So, yeah, there is a world where I think Paramount can win. I've said from the beginning, 60-40 Netflix. I'm sticking on that number. But like I said, I do think if it's even, I think they've got the votes to get this through. And I would also say it was interesting. The politicking is out of control right now, right? This is like anyone who's ever voted in a general election, like you should be getting all sorts of feels and vibes about what Ted Sarandos is saying and what David Ellison is saying. At the end of the day, what does Captain Kirk tell us, right? That's the mantra, right?
Don't trust them.
These are politicians trying to say the right thing. But within that, you look for the truth somewhere that's buried in there.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's come out in the trades, which I think is, we referenced this as well, and I brought this up in the deal math, Paramount has a lot more costs taken out in their bid than Netflix does. And if you look at how Skydance and Paramount have been going about their own merger, it's been a lot of layoffs. And I think there are people inside Warner Brothers that are looking at that and saying, Paramount's out there saying it's status quo, but like, look what they're actually doing to the deal they're already working on. They're gutting jobs. Whereas Netflix has kind of been saying, we're claiming we're going to leave you to be more standalone for a while. So I think that's winning some favor internally. Variety had a big feature on some of the employees kind of being like, we might actually have more of a future with Netflix for us individually than with Paramount, even though Paramount is legacy Hollywood and Netflix is new model.
Think about what Netflix is doing. They're building studios. They are building the infrastructure that Paramount already has and has been operating for decades, whatever, right? So they're building these studios in Jersey and I think other places as well. Who knows? That's a job for me. If I've been doing this for a long time, that's a job for me over there at Netflix Studios that I can run, that I can participate in. So I can see the resignation that the employees have in not wanting to go to Paramount because of what's happening and what could happen.
This is where Ted Sarandos was on The Town this week. I encourage people to listen to it because if you want to hear his full political position on this, it's right there. But I was trying to glean like, okay, where is he exaggerating and where is he maybe giving you some nuggets of truth? I think he's exaggerating on the theatrical window still, where he's talking about 45 days, firm 45 days. Like, again, you can't square that with what he's said in the past about even most recently is where he's talking about Superman getting a shorter window and Sinners getting a longer window. He is clearly telling you 45 days is not 45 days. It's a moving target. Individual
45
project
days
based.
is not 45 days for everybody.
No.
It doesn't apply to everybody. No. Like, for example, I saw Crime 101. That doesn't deserve a 45-day window.
No, it does not. Not a bad movie, but does not deserve that, right? So, and so when he says that 45 days might be for 1 out of every 10 movies, right? That might be, the others might get 14 days, 17 days. So I don't believe him for a second when he's saying everything's going to be 45 days. Where I do believe him and where I think his conversation gets interesting is when he was talking about marketing. And this goes to your point, Pablo, about jobs and content. We have speculated. We're doing well, by the way, in this. I'm going to point that out. Like a lot of the stuff that's coming out, we're doing well in terms of what we predicted. Because he's getting pushback from people saying, are you going to market the way that a studio typically markets? And his response to me, this is where you can tell he's telling the truth because he gets very cagey. And then he says something that I was all ears for. He said, well, we'll stay competitive on marketing. He said, but isn't the best way for us to market simply to put stuff on Netflix to our audience? What have we been saying they were going to do to save money?
Like, it doesn't take a rocket science to understand the position that Netflix is in.
No, and they're got to add how many more, some of these subscribers overlap, but how many more Max subscribers that aren't Netflix subscribers are now going to be part of the family? And that's part of the competitive dynamic. But like, he's telling you, I don't have to spend as much on the red carpet global campaign by foot in person when I can just pound my subscriber base every day with what's coming, with nice flashy poster, when's the release date. And here's the thing, if you're looking at that as an employee, on the one side, you'd say, wait, does the marketing department get nervous? Probably a little bit, but it's not like they're not doing any marketing. It's more it's reprogramming how they do it. And that is freeing up content spend. He's not telling you they're just going to take that money and put it in their pocket. And I actually don't think they will. I think it's going to open the door for maybe they would spend more on another show or another.
They're all about content. They're going to make content with whatever we need money to make content.
And we're not, and again, not all that content may be good. That's not the point. But the point is, like, if you're thinking about it as an employee of like an opportunity to work on a production, him saying that is an avenue for maybe having a piece of content that Paramount would not have the financial flexibility to make. And that is a fair, thing to hypothesize. So when he said that, I was like, oh, he's absolutely telling you he's going to do the thing, which we suspected he would do, which they would give them a leg up on budgeting and a leg up on green lighting in a way, if they want. Now, he's also saying they want to keep the studios almost competitive with each other. I think that's a little bit of window dressing because he doesn't want to be seen as monopolizing day one. So he wants to leave the Warner Brothers logo up. He wants to leave the Netflix logo up. And he was asked, like, well, what if they're both bidding to show a movie? he's like, would you let them both bid? He's like, oh yeah, I'd let them both bid. Come on now. That's not going to be a legitimate bid. We know that. But like, he's just trying to say the right things to make sure that like the two umbrellas are there. But I do think you're going to see like HBO is still a bigger premium TV brand than Netflix is. So HBO probably might get the highest end of Netflix stuff, might move over to HBO, and maybe Netflix is more the ABC or NBC, like the network TV equivalent of you could see stuff like that change, and they could use the brands that way. But that thing about marketing, I thought was one of the biggest things he said, where I was like, that's a big number. If you start thinking that about how many TV shows and how many movies over the course of the year where you would have to spend, we talk about with a blockbuster movie, $200 million budget, $100 million marketing. That's like the standard formula. So what if it was $200 million budget, but for Netflix, it's like $30 million. Now you got $70 million. You could say either that's just lower threshold to make money on the box office, or maybe I make the budget of the movie 225, 230, or maybe I take that 70 and I greenlight a smaller movie somewhere else. I don't know. These are possibilities that I think Paramount doesn't offer, that they can at least claim they could offer if they got the deal.
Netflix has so many channels. I don't know if they have a YouTube channel, but they have so many avenues from which they can promote to, that TV is not. They're not about TV. They're about Netflix. You sitting out on your couch, grabbing your remote, connecting to their app, and being not bombarded, but shown the top 10 of what people are watching. They can do whatever they want on that.
Yes.
And so
you have it right. That's your Bible is the ecosystem, right? This is the Maximus. Are you not entertained? That's how they think. They want you inside the house. They want you doing your gaming there. They want you watching your sports there. Why do they want WB? Because WB has assets, right? DC, asset. Harry Potter, asset. Lord of the Rings, asset. Netflix cannot build those things. They legally can't build those things. So that's why they need this stuff. And once they bring it in-house, again, is that all good for the customer? No, it's not. Of course it's not. Because Netflix at some point is going to say, this is the only place you can see Batman. We can do whatever we want with Batman. And there's real risk to that. We know that. But if you're trying to win a vote, and if you're trying to convince people of the merits, this is not as simple as old Hollywood, new Hollywood. There is nuance to this. And that's kind of what I'm pointing out with the stuff that Sarandos is saying and the money and all that's involved. But look, I think March 20th seems like it's the vote. So I guess we're going to know. I think we will know one way or the other, kind of like who is going to go before the powers that be to get approved for this, and then we'll see. Then we'll see if if it takes a long time to get this approved, or whether it does go through fairly smoothly. But this timeline would put you in probably deal closing in early 27. That would kind of put you on track for that. End of 26, first half of 27. And then you're going to, at that point, the new owner will make the changes they're going to make. I mean, that's when you're going to see, that's when you're going to start to see stuff really move around. So as you think about DC, man, that timing is interesting, right? Because it's, right in a year where Batman Part 2 is going to be gearing up to go out. Man of Tomorrow is going to be gearing up to go out. But then what's beyond that, we don't know. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But yeah, so we got about another year and change, I think, of twisting in the wind before we're finally into the next phase of this.
And I'll say this before we move on to Batman, James Gunn's Batman.
Yeah.
And the possibility of Batman 3. Netflix are innovators. They change the way you get to see content. And they're always on a path to create experiences that warrant curiosity and intrigue. And if you're satisfied, you become a customer. More specifically to DC, although there's worry in what they will do, I'm also curious as to what they will do. And the possibility of watching a season of Batman on TV, I'd be interested in that. Most people would be interested. Most Batman fans would be interested in that. And those are in the millions. So let's see what happens in the saga of the WB and where it's heading. James Gunn has, well, he hasn't said, what he's been saying is in defense of what has been rumored. And it's this, I don't know if he's working with somebody in PR, because there's a lot of talk about what's not true rather than what's coming out, what's coming down the pipe. There's all that talk, which takes away from what we want to see. Brian, what's going on with James Gunn on Batman 3? And I think we touched on the possibilities of Batman 3, but we haven't gone in full depth on that subject. And also, where is Brave and the Bold?
Where is Brave and the Bold? They got a milk carton for that thing. Look, I think the interesting thing in the James Gunn part of this is there's an impression of, intentional or not, there's an impression of sort of a little bit of like a loss of control going on here. As you said, sort of feels like he's playing defense. Like, he said something that I was just like, come on, man. When he was trying to debunk some of these rumors, he was like, I haven't been on Threads for weeks. And I was like, man, you live on Thread. Like, you more on Threads than like any individual troller or poster that's out there. And it's like, he hasn't been on week. And he's like, it's like, it's insane how much wrong stuff is going around in just a few weeks. And I'm like, if it was that wrong, my guess is you would have stopped it a few weeks ago. No?
Word up.
So,
because that's what you've done in the past. That's been
correct.
Your MO.
Correct. So let's break it down, and then let's kind of try to parse like a little bit of like guesswork, what's going on here. So this Batman thing really still feels like a tug of war of sorts.
Let me say this, Brian. Tug of war. We've been talking about this Batman subject matter with regards to having multiple Batmans on screen, whether Batman 2 makes a certain amount and we live up to this Batman, not live up to, but go beyond Batman 2 and into Batman 3. And given how Matt Reeves works in terms of his time, with this next topic that we discuss, apparently James Gunn wants to fast track Batman 3 and Matt Reeves works on his own time. It is apparent.
Yep.
So, tug of war.
I legitimately don't think Matt Reeves and James Gunn have personal beef with each other. Like, I don't think this is about two guys who like just don't like each other and anything. I don't see it that way. It's a creative tug of war about how they want to tell Batman stories and where the two of them are overlapping in terms of character usage or pieces of the comics that they want to draw from. That's where I sense this tug of war. And it very much felt in the kind of the early days of Gunn and Safran, like Gunn and Safran had the upper hand. It felt like there was dissatisfaction at Matt Reeves' work rate. There was kind of like a, hey, what is going on with Batman 2? Remember, there were like some rumors that were debunked about maybe he was having some personal problems, which, that probably was planted by somebody. And it felt like Brave and the Bold was moving to the forefront of, at one point, it felt like there was rumors of like that story was coming together nicely. And like, there was momentum. Like, we might even see that before we saw Batman Part 2. And then like the Batman 2 script got turned in. And everyone on the planet except for James Gunn had one opinion, which is that it was all that in a bag of chips. And after that, it's kind of felt like it started to go the other way. And it was sort of like, okay, this thing that Matt Reeves turned in, we need to let this marinate and stew and play out the way he wants to have it play. And then as that was happening, it felt like you had some loss of momentum in DCU in general. And then Brave and the Bold was kind of that was now the project that was nowhere. Mm-hmm. And now you're into this rumor of, well, how are they going to resolve this? Because we had a conversation about like, would Batman Part 2 be the end of the Matt Reeves Elseworlds, right? There was like, it's too late to stop that one, but like maybe they'll just say, all right, James Gunn, have it your way after that. Well, now, of course, there's talk of like, oh, Batman Part 2 script is that. We need to see Part 3. And
That's
as you
crazy.
said,
Yeah.
that could be another 5 years the way that Matt Reeves works, right?
Yeah.
So, and then there was like, do they want Brave and the Bold, on screen at the same time, within months of that? All sorts of questions. But my overriding theme is it does feel like Reeves has, at least for the time being, defended his turf and is able to operate largely as he would like in the construction of Batman Part 2. And the details we're getting seem to be focused on the Dent family. So I think we could say, look, we've got Sebastian Stan as Harvey, we have ScarJo as his wife, and we have this open role for the dad, which was revealed to be the one that Brad Pitt and Stellan Skarsgård both have turned down. So we don't have a Father Dent casting, but look at the names they asked to play. Should let you know that Matt Reeves has big plans for the Dent family, probably not just in Part 2, but over the course of Parts 2 and 3. And with those actors on board, now the studio's looking at that being like, we kind of need to let Matt Reeves do his thing. And so James Gunn is trying to, how do I fit my narrative around that to make it seem like I didn't lose this creative tug of war?
For Brad Pitt and Skarsgård, this could be, although they've had stellar careers for Brad Pitt and thus far for Skarsgård, could this be their Will Smith passing Neo in The Matrix? I don't know, but I'm curious as to why they're passing on this character and to be part of a Batman film, Maybe because they're not Batman. I don't know, but it just doesn't make sense to me as to why they're passing this down.
I think in Pitt's case, that's the end. I think in Pitt's case, he could rightfully say, look, I'm coming off of F1. I am still as big a leading man as I've ever been. I've got this Cliff Booth thing coming on Netflix. I'm not ready to be mentor, sidekick, dad guy yet. I'm not into my Liam Neeson, Russell Crowe, senior man. I think that's what he would say. Mm-hmm. Skarsgård, maybe he feels the same. Maybe he also felt, maybe he's like, look, I just did the Luthen part and or I don't really want to do another part. Maybe it was like that. I mean, you don't know, but the point is they're going to get a name actor to do that role. And then now you're going to look at the list of names in this cast and you're kind of like, wow, that's star-studded and a half, So again, Gunn's comment was basically trying to damage control, for lack of a better word. Think about this rumors in rapid succession. We had a rumor of Brave and the Bold is a go, and it's going to come out 6 months after Batman Part 2, to which James Gunn said, not even close to having a script, not happening, right? So we had that happen. Weeks later, we had James Gunn is now trying to fast track Matt Reeves' Batman 3 because he doesn't want Brave and the Bold anywhere near that, doesn't want to compete with that, to which James Gunn said, no one's fast tracking anything. That's not anything. Like that's not, and to which I would say Matt Reeves is in the corner being like, you damn right, nobody fast tracking anything.
Hey, Matt Reeves is like, you the boss, but you're not the boss of me.
I think that's about right. I think that's actually pretty close to the truth of it, right? It's like I'm Elseworlds. I can't be Elseworlds when you want me to be Elseworlds, and then under your finger when you want me to be under your thumb. That's not how that works, right? I'm either separate or I'm not. And I think that's a little bit what you're seeing. But so here's the other read between the lines. Do you think let's take the merger stuff out of it, just creatively, push comes to shove, is Warner Brothers confident enough to put Brave and the Bold Batman and Reeves versus Batman side by side in close proximity on screen at the same time or not? Do you think they are or not? That's the real question here. In successive years, so say one comes out in 27, one comes out in 28, one comes out in 29, one comes out, you know what I mean? But the point is they're both active at the same time. Do you think the studio is good with that and willing to bet on that?
I don't know if they're willing to bet on James Gunn.
Interesting.
I would bet on Batman being on screen. I have no problem with multiple Batmen. Two. I don't because you can tell different stories in different eras of the
Which this
Batman.
would be, right? So Brave and the Bold, as we understand it. So granted, Pattinson himself is 40, but his Batman is mid-20s, right?
Yeah,
Mid to
yeah,
late.
yeah.
So the Brave and the Bold Batman is supposed to be mid-40s, mid to late 40s. Like he's the older of the pair, right? So
You can
they're
even
not in
throw
competition
Yeah,
that way.
you could throw Batman Beyond in there. You can do multiple stuff with Batman, yo.
Yeah.
And then the Elseworld, the Zack Snyder project that he's trying to get done, you can do that, yo. Batman is that dude
Yeah.
that you'll watch his adventures because it's Batman, yo.
So now throw in the merger, because I think this is one of those questions we can start to speculate on. If Netflix was to win, I am very confident as to what they would vote on in terms of this idea. Forget the James Gunn, forget the individual project, just the concept of what we just talked about. A Reeves verse, Batman 2-3 ongoing, and introducing alongside that a new Batman story at a different phase in life. I think almost 100% chance Netflix is a yes, green light, go for it. I think Paramount could be a no on that. I think
Yeah.
Paramount could be a no and could say we'd only rather have the one at a time. Thoughts on that? You think that's fair? Like that could actually, this is one of those where like whoever wins this merger could actually determine how or the sequencing of how we see Batman on screen?
If I was with Paramount and there was pushback on that idea, I would be one to be going against their thoughts on not doing it because, again, it's Batman. You can tell different stories, and people, Batman fans, which again are in the millions, will come out. And if it's well done, they will come out and see it, not once, but twice. The problem here is James Gunn aesthetics and his goofiness and his jokes. I don't care what he says because he has said in the past, oh, this is not going to be this, that. And then you see it. It's like, come on, James, you just can't help yourself. Especially as fast as you write, we can hear it in the dialogue. And I said this before. He can't help himself. He's going to write goofy stuff, and that's what it is. I don't think Paramount would I don't think Paramount themselves will probably feel comfortable in doing that with James Gunn. With someone else, I believe so. But if they were opposed of bringing multiple Batmans out on screen, I would be telling you can do this. You absolutely can do it because the Batman character is not just this 25-year-old and then that's the only story we tell. We can tell multiple stories, multiple iterations. Obviously, we can't go crazy, right? And just have Batman all over the place. That would be too much.
Is it?
But
See, I think Netflix would say if it's a character like that, there may not be such a thing as too much, depending on how you're using your different mediums.
depending on how
And
you use it, yes.
right,
On TV, you could listen. I've always wanted to see the Bruce Wayne in training in martial arts. That must have taken at least a year or two. I would see seasons of that where he's not Batman, he's Bruce Wayne learning the arts and having him to overcome all that skill level that he has to fight. I'm telling you, that's to me, that's a show. But for me, if I was in Paramount, I would be pounding the table, be like, nah, you can do this. You absolutely can do it with this character.
interesting.
Look at Spider-Man. Look at Wolverine. Look what they're trying to do there.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that you can't.
When I see Gunn comment, he's trying to position and reposition certain rumors, but I really do think this will be one of those characters, one of those situations where whoever wins this merger will have a huge say in the outcome of
Absolutely.
this, right? And so, like, I don't even
Absolutely.
think James Gunn has the answer. Like, even if you put him on the lie detector test, he's not able to tell you what the actual plan is because that plan is in flux officially.
Absolutely, yes.
So I think that's a part of it. And I would also note, I always take note of things that James Gunn doesn't comment on because I always think he's a pretty smart guy. Like there's been smoke signals starting to go up about Muschietti's involvement, right, in this project and whether Gunn himself is going to kind of come in and take over. Notice he didn't comment on that at all. Notice how much insane wrong stuff, he said nothing about that. flagged that for people. He left that one out there.
Listen, you can't come back from The Flash to then do Batman. You can come back from The Flash and do another movie and be successful, yay, hooray! But from
Which he did. He did that. He did that It series. That's so like Andy Muschietti is good at It. We know that he's really good at doing It. That's like right. We got 2 movies and a TV series that says Stephen King's It. Call Andy Muschietti. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But Flash to Batman is a promotion.
Yeah.
That's what that is character-wise. I'm sorry. I love The Flash, but like...
Well, there will be some who say that the Batman scenes in that film were the best parts.
They were very good.
What's to say that he can't do it with a full, feature with Batman and Batman stuff? You can make that argument. But based on what we saw with The Flash, I would still be uncomfortable in making that, in greenlighting that part,
I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I think when you break down The Flash and you just say like what's interesting about it, what doesn't work, I think, look, we don't have to rehash it. The movie fails because it fails immediately because the person playing the Flash is the wrong casting, and that's a Zack Snyder mistake, not an Andy Muschietti one, right?
Yeah.
So he's dealt a hand that kind of is impossible to overcome. I do like the Keaton scenes. I do like the Affleck scene. I like the Supergirl work. So like you could say like that's the argument to say Muschietti kind of knows what he's doing with some of the comic book characters and should get a look. I just think though it is tough to overcome the degree of box office failure that movie was when you're being entrusted with a character that basically is looked at as like $1 billion lock these days. And to me, it's kind of equivalent to if Winter Soldier had not been what it was, would you really have entrusted the Russos with Infinity War and Endgame? Like, didn't they need Winter Soldier to be the $700, $800 million movie that it was, which was almost double what Cap 1 did? And then didn't they need to make $1 billion with Civil War? And that earned them the right to say, okay, here are the keys to the kingdom. If those 2 movies had languished at 400 to 500 million, even if they were decent, even if they were solid, how would people have felt if they then came out and said, these are the guys that are now going to handle the culmination of the Infinity Saga? I think you kind of earn it, not just through the merits of your work, you earn it through the audience's feedback. And the audience's feedback on The Flash was no thanks. Yeah. So that's why I think it's hard to just say automatically, he's your guy for DCU Batman.
Do you think, and I've said this before, even before the sort of announcements that they've made with who would be directing Batman, I always said, look, I called James Gunn directing Superman.
You did.
Why with Batman?
Yeah.
If I'm given the opportunity to direct Batman, why wouldn't I take it? What would I be afraid of?
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you.
To me, doesn't make sense for him not to do it. If he doesn't do it, it's because there's a confidence thing there. If he decides not to do it, because what director wouldn't take that opportunity to do a Batman film? I'm pretty sure he wants to do it, but being that he's in the position that he is now, and on defense, saying this and that's not true and stuff like that. That is not a creative realm that he's in right now. And I think he's lacking a bit of confidence in saying that I'm going to do it, and perhaps also promises that perhaps he made to Muschietti about him doing it, that he wants to still keep that in place, because Batman is not for sure right now. I said before, Man of Steel and some of these other projects are a test to see whether or not James Gunn is the guy. Interesting situation.
So I think if James Gunn is still going to be the man in charge of the DCU, I think you're right. I think he ultimately is going to direct Brave and the Bold, and I think scheduling allows for that. I mean, Man of Tomorrow is gearing up to shoot in Cincinnati later this summer. That movie's supposed to come out next year. James Gunn's personal schedule is going to be free and clear. to do Brave and the Bold if he is still in charge of the DCU. But that's a big if. No matter who wins this merger, that is an if. That is one of those TBD questions. And that's why I think no matter what James Gunn tells you about this project, he doesn't totally know because his own future is somewhat in question. And I think one thing I take from all of the commenting and the rumoring, bottom line, Brave and the Bold or some form of DCU Batman is not that close. Like that's the take. It's not that close. And anything you see, to my mind, that claims that like there's an offer out for casting or they're gearing up to shoot is bogus. They are nowhere on this project. And I bet both prospective owners are very aware of the DCU in terms of like what's going on and sort of are like, even if they can't exercise direct influence yet, are starting to at least think in a preliminary terms about what they would want that to be. That's not to say James Gunn will get fired. That's not what I'm saying. It's just things will change. Like even if he is still the man in charge, things will change. Like you're not going to have the sandbox be exactly what it is today. And therefore, Batman is a key fulcrum variable in that because of how important that character is.
And last thing before we move on, they're talking, they have been saying that James Gunn will continue to be in Peter Safran. I mean, what else can they say? They can't throw a monkey wrench, not even a monkey wrench, but this distraction, because that's what it would be.
Yeah, no.
And say that he won't be a part or is rumored that he may not be. That will be the talk of the town. Yeah. And they don't have time for that. Everything is the same for now, until somebody has actual hold of have it in their hands in order to determine the future. But for right now, I don't care what they say outside of the attempt of attaining this asset.
Yeah, no, like as I said, if you assume a deal closes in the first half of 2027 or somewhere in that range, you will then have a new CEO of Warner Brothers. Of the combined. That new CEO will launch a strategic review of the assets that Warner Brothers has. Probably take 3 to 6 months. So that puts you in the fall of 27. So right about the time Batman Part 2 is coming out. Somewhere in that time horizon, summer, fall of 27, one of the things that will be resolved is leadership and future model for the DCU. Like that will happen. So, and I can tell you, Gunn and Safran may retain their titular positions. There's no scenario where their job description will be exactly the same. None. So they may be the people for the new job, but it will be something of a new job. No matter who owns it, something will change.
Yeah. In more defense. So we talked about in our last show, Paradise Lost was possibly canceled. I don't know. It was more.
This
of
was
a
a
rumor.
John Roca sourced story where he said writers, crew members were being told there was no work to be had on this project because it's been scrapped. That it was a pretty specific rumor from a source who's got some sources.
Yeah, but now James Gunn is saying no, that's not true.
He's saying the show's yeah.
What was that? He's saying what?
He's saying cancellation rumors about the show are unfounded. He does not specifically say that it's happening or when it's happening. He's just saying it's not canceled officially. That's how I interpreted his debunk.
Pretty much nobody thinking about Paradise Lost right now. Nobody's thinking about that right now. Although the conversations surrounding Adria Arjona is picking up as her being the next Wonder Woman. What does that say to you, Brian, as far as where this project is? Are they thinking of, scrapping Paradise Lost and moving towards a Wonder Woman instead?
Possible. So the only official Wonder Woman update we have is Anna Nagira writing it. That was confirmed. She's obviously already in-house, has been working on projects. So she's writing the movie for Wonder Woman. Paradise Lost was supposed to be a prequel to that, set in the DCU Themyscira. They never confirmed Wonder Woman would be in it. I hypothesized she would be in some form, kid form or something, as sort of a launch point for that. Possible. It's possible you could be basically saying, look, we don't want a TV show and a movie of this. We just want to go straight to movie. I do notice that like the Adria Arjona rumors are that James Gunn wants her. It's not that she's signed. It's not that she's been offered. It's simply that she's his number one choice. I noticed that he did not specifically debunk that. He didn't say anything about that. So I think you can sort of suppose that she certainly is on the short list, if not at the top of it. But similarly, the script's not done. It's not turned in. We don't seem that close on it. And again, like Wonder Woman to me, not quite as conviction on this as Batman, but still falls in that category of something I've asked previously, which is big enough character that the more this drags and the closer you get to the merger and finding out who's going to be the new owner, the less likely it seems to me that they would actually greenlight and move forward on a project until the new ownership has a chance to have their say. So, I don't think Rocha pulled that story from nowhere. So I tend to think there's some smoke to that like at the very least, if it hasn't been formally canceled, the project is in limbo, been backburnered, and it's just kind of sitting there. I hear that, and I'm like, well, if Netflix owned it, I definitely think Netflix makes Paradise Lost.
Well, hell
for
yeah.
sure, right?
It's content.
But again, does Paramount do it? I don't know. See, this is where like you start to look at those avenues, and you're like, some seem obvious to me, and some not. Or would Paramount look at it as, hey, we'll make Paradise Lost, but Wonder Woman's got to be in it. You know what I'm saying? Like they might look at it as for Paramount, our version of the streamer, we got to have the mainline character. We can't do the spinoff. Netflix very happy to do the spinoff and then send Wonder Woman to the big screen. So I think those are starting to become like little factors in the background. And like the way that would happen is not that Netflix and Paramount are the ones issuing the orders. It's Zaslav, right? It's the Warner Brothers higher ups who are kind of like talking to Gunn and Saffron and being like, we're not giving you the money just yet because we got to figure out who's going to own us. We're not giving you the money for that next project right now. Keep working on it. Keep the writer's room going. Keep the ideas going. This may happen. We don't want to kill it, but like we got to slow play this stuff. That's what my read of these core characters is starting to become.
Man of Tomorrow, Brian.
I didn't get this whole flap at all, by the way, just for the record. The colon thing, I didn't get this at all. Why was this even a story? So the title, people were like, so I saw all the news articles picked it up as like the title of the movie changed. And I was like, oh, what'd they change it to? And they're like, they changed it from Man of Tomorrow to Superman : Man of Tomorrow. And I'm like, is that a change? Like,
it's like,
really?
It's like, who cares?
And then James Gunn is like, we didn't change it. It's still Man of Tomorrow, and it's not just a Superman movie. I'm like, I don't totally get why people care that much, but.
No, but James Gunn, when he talks, we have to listen, right? And he said, this is just not a Superman movie. This is obviously more than that. And that's what scares me about James Gunn and his ideas and what he wants to do and what he wants to accomplish, what he wants to show, how funny he wants to be about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Superman itself had a lot beyond Superman in it, right? In terms of characters and things concepts that he tried to introduce. I mean, my best guess is James Gunn is trying to do, pull something from the comics where like if you have a run of comics, right, and you get into issue 2 and issue 3, a lot of times, even though it's the run of comics might fall under Superman, some of those stories will have a ton of side quests and characters and offshoot. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm guessing that's kind of the spirit of Man of Tomorrow. I am with you in the sense of like, look, if you're going to wait all this time to make live action Brainiac come to screen, if that character is somehow buried in like an ensemble picture, that would feel pretty disappointing and a pretty major letdown. And maybe James Gunn is just going to use this as like, yeah, he's going to Jackson Pollock it up, right? He's going to put all this stuff on the canvas and, in his mind, it's going to be sort of this multi-layered masterpiece. And in our mind, maybe it'll be that, or maybe it'll be a mess or somewhere in between. But I'm kind of with you that like based upon what we've seen both in Superman and Peacemaker, the too many, like James Gunn at the controls, the too many ideas monster is loose.
Too many mind.
I love that. You gotta find the Last Samurai scene where he pulls that up, swinging the sword.
Yo, listen, he nerfed Batista's character, Drax. He nerfed Adam Warlock. What he did with Hawk Girl was an atrocity to me.
That's tough. That's I still an underrated. And it's weird. Some people like the what and I'm like, do you not get?
Right.
Like, I like Isabella Merced. I'm just saying, but like, do you not understand like what just happened to that character?
If people like it, fine. But it's not going to make you money. And it's not going to have the majority of people who really like this character to like it. Only the few. And in business, you can't have only a few people liking what it is that you have to offer. You just can't. The point is to have the majority of people liking what you put out. And the majority didn't like what they did, what he did. What he did with Hawker.
I don't know. Again, Hawkgirl's never been my favorite, Justice League member.
But she was dope in Justice League Unlimited.
But I'm saying, like, you can take, right, so you have sort of the storyline of many lifetimes lived and these star-crossed lovers with her and Carter Hall, right? So there's that whole aspect of mythology, which, I'm sorry, like, this incarnation just doesn't seem positioned to be that at all. And then you have, as you said, in the animated version, the whole Thanagarian backstory and this war world culture that she comes from. And it's like, you got this punk teenager. I'm like, you just threw both of that out with one thing, and just so she could crack a few jokes and drop one dictator from 30,000 feet. And I'm like, it wasn't it.
See, if Netflix had DC, you would do seasons of those, almost like not an anthology, but those sequences of that time of Hawk Girl and this dude, Hawkman. You will go throughout time and then, or go to what's the planet?
Thanagar is the planet. Yeah.
Go to Thanagar, right? Have her. What's it like living there? Show me that. And then at the end of that season, you see a plan to invade Earth. Those are the things that get people interested, man. And I'm sorry, I am so out on James Gunn. And if you've been watching this show, when it was first announced that James Gunn was taking over,
Pablo
I was ecstatic.
I was so
ecstatic. Yes.
Yep.
But now I am out. And I don't got nothing against James Gunn, but his aesthetic is just not for me.
Well, I'll give it, like I said, this may be his swan song run, but I'll give it, because I want to see combination of Supergirl, Lanterns, obviously, which Lanterns less involved in, Clayface, in theory, less involved in. And then, I still want, there's a curiosity to Man of Tomorrow just to see what he can do to build on what he did in Superman. So, like, I leave the door open for it just because this is a guy who gave me Guardians 1, right? And has done some things where I was just like, hey, this is not a hack, and so I still hold out some hope, but I'm with you in that, like, I feel like the pattern that's been emerging here is more one of concern than excitement. And I don't diminish the difficulty of the job that he has, because it's a really difficult thing to do and do well, right? And very few people are probably cut out to do it consistently well. And maybe we're finding out that, James Gunn has a niche in which he excels. Mm-hmm. And having him be the shepherd of your entire universe, maybe he just doesn't have the range for that. Maybe that's just beyond his bag. I mean, and that's maybe what we're finding.
And let's keep it 100. Guardians of the Galaxy and his trilogy, how much did he have full control over those? Were there instances in that production where Kevin Feige was like, hey, we do this instead of that?
Certainly for one, he would not have had full control. He probably had more control by 3, but for one, I'm sure.
Lanterns gets a logo.
There's only one thing I wanted to bring up about this, because I was kind of amused, is what do you make of this very conscious effort to not say green. So the logo is brown. The footage is all sand and dirt. They will not say green. Are we supposed to draw something from this that they can't call it? They're not calling them Green Lanterns ever?
I think they're doing a good job in sort of keeping our eyes attuned to the contrast between the colors here. And I think that they want that moment of when that does happen, when it is a Green Lantern and stuff, to really be something huge and exciting and eventful. So yeah, I think they're doing this purposely.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows Green Lantern, but let everybody else say it, not us, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing a good job in showing us stuff that doesn't look anything like Green Lantern. Like if this could be a Netflix movie based on what they've shown us.
Oh yeah.
So when that time comes for them to actually be Green Lanterns, transform, and do whatever it is, I think it'll be something that people will be talking about because it's not being talked about now at all.
And I have no problem with the title or the logo, but it was funny. Like fans were like, "Where's the green? Where's the green?" I'm like, "But look, everything has been brown. Really, the focus has been on dust, dirt, show as little as possible, other than these two guys." Yeah. And at the end of the day, they think they have it. I think they do too. I saw Kyle Chandler was saying this was one of the most fun sets he's ever worked on in terms of just like chemistry with Aaron Pierre. And that's it. Honestly, the show cannot be bad if those two guys work together. Yeah. It's not the same type of stakes, but we just got done with Wonder Man. It's like, if Yahya and Ben Kingsley don't work, that show stinks. There's no way around it. The fact that they do work papers over a lot of the complaints you probably would otherwise have. It'll be the same with this show. If those two guys deliver Emmy Award-winning work, which they're capable of, this show is going to be awesome. But I agree with you. This entire thing, it smells of a bait and switch. They want this thing to seem as powered down, as ground-based, as human and unsuperpowered as possible for when they unleash the rings and they start doing crazy stuff and they go cosmic, it has real effect. And I will be actually pretty surprised if, given that this is HBO and not a movie, I think the promotional material is probably going to hold back almost everything on that cosmic front. I would be, maybe you see the ring light up, maybe you even hear one of them start to say the oath. I would be pretty surprised if we even get a shot of either of them in full costume creating an object with the ring and using it. I'd be pretty surprised. I think that all of that is going to be held for the show, and we're all going to be the better for it when they pull it out.
Absolutely. They're not Aquaman in it. That's what they're not doing. And the Batman 2 writer teases the story, Brian. What did he say?
Well, Mattson Tomlin kind of had a mixed week, as we said. He is the showrunner and creator of Terminator Zero, and Netflix canceled his show, which, by the way, he said, even though the reviews were good, I guess it was really expensive to do that anime style animation. He said it was really costly, and Netflix didn't want to budget another season. But as the co-writer of Batman Part 2, he's Matt Reeves' co-writer, he said, quote, "We worked exceptionally hard to tell a story worthy of the character, something that feels new and dangerous. And the bar couldn't be higher. I can't begin to describe what this film means to me," end quote. And that came alongside, like I said, this confirmation that the Dent family is sort of featured, with the father being the role. So, all excitement, right? All excitement for this at this point. But what? Let's talk a little bit more about the Dent family angle here as part of this new and dangerous thing. What do you make of that? This idea that isn't going to just be Harvey, it isn't just going to be the ultimate Two-Face. It's going to be him and Gilda and his dad, and we're actually going to have Wayne family dynamics in history and Dent family dynamics in history. And what do you make of that as sort of an entry point for Part 2?
I think it definitely puts us in a different sort of space in regards to the influences and the things that make Batman who he is, especially Bruce Wayne, having a best friend sort of type relationship with him. So him being introduced to that family, having the conversations that they're having regarding the state of Gotham, and listening to what Bruce Wayne has to say and how Bruce Wayne says it, who he is, because we've been saying that Bruce Wayne has to be. We have to have this separation of who Batman is and who Bruce Wayne is, because Bruce Wayne is the guys, right? And
Does this
so
make you think? Because do we have an actual Thomas Wayne actor for this? Because it
I
made me
don't.
wonder if we're getting one.
Well, there was a Thomas Wayne in the first one, in the videos that we saw of
That's what I
him.
mean. Yeah. So, but we don't have like a spoken part actor confirmed for part 2, do we? Because it made me wonder whether we get flashback, almost Godfather 2ing it, where they'd kind of have like Thomas and Dad Dent, and then I don't know. I was trying to think about how Reeves might tackle this.
I think we probably go towards Dent talking about his dad, not necessarily us seeing these exchanges, but certainly some conversations will be had about when he knew his Wayne, and him then telling Bruce Wayne about his father. I think that's where I think they'd be going.
One of these subplots I'm just watching Reeves work in the Batman universe is that have you noticed how he's kind of really emphasizing these different families, in the sense of, obviously the Wayne family we know from every Batman story is central, but the Falcone family, right, has been developed, right? Carmine, Sophia, and even you could put Catwoman into this as sort of like a surrogate part of that. Penguin, right? We get him and Ma, like it's a family. Reeves seems to be doing this as almost like a pillar of his storytelling, that this is the families of Gotham, almost like a crime drama or like a Sopranos style approach to it. I don't think that's an accident. So I'm kind of curious to see how far he continues to take that over the course of the 3 parts. But it does make me want that. That's why I started hatching the, like, in the Wayne family, we don't have Thomas and Martha as real living, breathing people in this version. And it makes me wonder if we're getting that in this movie too.
You've seen sprinkles of that sort of storytelling in Batman the Animated Series with families, and crime bosses. Even in Batman Year One, the movie, the animated movie, that's his first foe, the Falcone family, or whichever family he deals with. And I think Matt Reeves is a fan of those stories, and so those always have worked in the sense that they've been interesting. And I believe he's using that, yes, as a pillar of his storytelling for this new Batman, and how it helps him evolve into who he is, and influences him. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the sort of spaces that they're in and the conversations that they have.
The last question I have on this is that, given how now granted, when they were promoting the Batman, COVID was ahead of that, right? So we get the Fandom teaser during COVID effectively. But that came 18 months before the movie came out. They haven't shot this movie yet, so they obviously can't do that in this case. I'm curious as to how quickly, though, Reeves will try to get some similar promotional buzz going and something out, given that he only shot 25% of the movie last time before he put a teaser out. I'm just kind of curious how fast he actually will try to start getting that out there, like images and maybe even a little teaser.
I think he's going to probably do the same thing he did last time. Granted, let's see how much he gets shot and how much they can put together that'll get us. Because again, that first teaser had everybody going crazy.
And he's got our money now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like he really doesn't have to give away any of the secrets this time.
No, but that excitement of what we see certainly has an effect on what should we be expecting type of situation. So,
Well, I think he sets the mood, right? I mean, if we go back to that Fandom teaser, the mood gets set with the crime scene of the Riddler, right? The Riddler with the tape. You kind of, right. So immediately, and then the lighting, the red and the black. Like he just, like that alone is just like, I've changed everything about the Batman stories you've seen. Yeah. So the question is, with this, can he achieve something like that? Like use the first 10 seconds of footage to basically say, you're back in my world, but there's something different now that you need to focus on.
We shall see. And we are waiting with...
My theory has been, if I was him, Bruce in daylight, looking normal and dapper.
Absolutely.
To me, in the first 10 seconds would be like the most jarring, like, holy moly. That's what I would do.
I think if you were to do that, our eyes would be like, what's happening in this scene that's so different that we didn't see in because the last one was dark. There's darkness.
Yep.
So having him doing that would definitely keep us intrigued to see what happens and what transpires in those scenes. It's a very interesting situation for Matt Reeves. I think his approach has us excited and curious and intrigued to see the next iteration of what this is. And there's no doubt that people are waiting with anticipation to see this next iteration. And I don't blame James Gunn not wanting to compete with that. But that shows to me a lack of confidence, because if you got Batman, you have the opportunity to do something dope. Because what Matt Reeves has done certainly is up there with the best of the best in terms of the Batman stuff. But we can say Batman 89, Dark Knight Rises, these individuals were able to do something dope. For James Gunn to say, I don't want to be a part or around this, it just shows a lack of confidence.
So here's one for either. So this is one where I think I thought about this. Either Paramount or Netflix, I could see this happening. So Batman Part 2, like I said, is going to come out right about when the new owner probably is going to actually be in the building. Let's assume, as we've assumed throughout, that Reeves delivers and this is a well north of $1 billion box office hit, which ensures Part 3 gets made. No matter who the owner is, they're going to want Part 3 if it does that kind of business. Where would you place odds the new owner in any DC structure contracts with Matt Reeves to stick around in some capacity? And we see things like his Arkham show get re-erected, or his Gotham PD show get resurrected. Like, what are odds that you see Matt Reeves is, even if he's not the head of DC, I'm not saying that he is given the reins to remain a shepherd of Batman by the new owner, regardless of what else is going on at DC? And does he do it? Does he want to do it?
I think the conversation will be had. Whether he accepts such a situation, I think he'll take some time to consider it. I think he would probably take more of the role as Kevin Feige, because look what we got with the Penguin, yo. He didn't direct that.
No.
He was certainly a part. He was in the room when this was being discussed. He was doing
he picked very good showrunners for that. Lauren LaFranc did an amazing job.
There you go. Yeah. But there you go. He's doing what James Gunn should be doing. Yeah. And he's doing his dream project, Batman. Because if somebody decides to do Batman, that is their dream project. Yes, I'm going to do it. And Matt Reeves did it. And he has his way about how he does stuff. In that situation, Matt Reeves will give himself the room to create at his own pace with Batman films and building this other world outside of it.
Because I just think practically, if parts 2 and 3 are well north of $1 billion, and he basically is like, okay, I've given $4 billion plus global box on 3 Batman movies. I have an Emmy award-winning show in The Penguin. That's my legacy. And I've got Planet of the Apes on my resume. Either new owner is going to want Matt Reeves to be working with them. Now, even if it's not in DC, they're going to want that guy on a first look deal with Paramount, Netflix. They're going to want him in-house.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, like, I think, the way this was originally conceived at WB was Matt Reeves would finish the Batman and then he would kind of leave the studio and go his own separate way. And now I'm kind of feeling like with whoever the new owner is, there's kind of an odds that Matt Reeves will be in the building. Whether he's in the DC building, I don't know, but he certainly had other Batverse stories he wanted to tell. And I'm like, you look at how Paramount let Taylor Sheridan work. You look at how Netflix has let some of their creators work. Like, there's an alignment there with what Reeves has been trying to do where I'm kind of like, we may not have heard the last of some of these ideas that he had for Batman.
And in the Netflix world, they welcome it.
I think Paramount in this case would actually welcome this one too.
I
right?
think
Like
so
look
too,
at
yes.
look at all the spin-offs of Yellowstone that they wanted Sheridan to do and that he was happy to do. Like Batman's a character that I actually think both owners would be like, okay, I'll yeah, you want to do Arkham, you want to do PD, you want to do, a series on, some of the villains. Like I think, I don't know.
Think about this.
Yeah.
For everyone out there watching this show and listen to this, and you tell me, Matt Reeves' track record, James Gunn's track record. When you're looking at this, you said it, Planet of the Apes, the Batman. Peacemaker, yo? Yeah, it's funny, whatever. It's not funny to me, and it just doesn't work for me. Creature Commandos, Suicide Squad, yeah, it was reviewed, but it didn't make money. Granted, it was in the pandemic, but so was Shang-Chi, and it made money.
Yeah.
And Superman, that, according to Tesserandos, didn't do what it was supposed to do.
Yep.
There's a lot more confidence in what Matt Reeves can do than what James Gunn can do.
Well, I would say Reeves has demonstrated wider range, and
Yes.
his hit rate is higher. I think James Gunn's ceiling to date has been comparable, right? Matt Reeves' career high movie is right around 800. James Gunn's is higher with the Guardians. So like the peak of both has been pretty comparable, but I think Reeves' consistency and diversity, no question. I think it's.
But
better.
I think James Gunn was part of a machine.
That's fair. I'm not, yeah. But Matt Reeves has Batman, and Batman as a character has higher prestige than Guardians did. So you'd have to give like Reeves had a built-in advantage there that James Gunn did not with Guardians.
Yeah, but people have with Batman failed. Joel Schumacher.
You're right. No, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? There's a chance if you just because I got Batman, it doesn't guarantee. You still got to give me a
not
good
a guarantee,
Batman.
but it helps.
Yes.
All else
Yes.
equal, out of the gate, you have a little bit of extra buzz just because you're directing Batman versus Guardians of the Galaxy that very few people had heard of as casual movies.
Yes, and he made it successful, but it was also part of a machine. And I don't know how much control he had over it. But he certainly had. I mean, James Gunn has certainly said things about his influence on a lot of the storylines and overall in the MCU. He's given his notes, and the MCU perhaps was better for it. But his run now has shown the cracks when he's in control, in complete control.
No disagreements. And my point is, I think either new owner is going to want Matt Reeves to be affiliated with their house in some capacity. And that, to me, has to include a conversation around, are you sure there isn't more Batman you want to do? Regardless of what else is going on. I don't think Matt Reeves would actually want to run DC. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy that wants to run everything for everybody. Because he likes to do his own stuff too. But he clearly, like I said, he clearly had other things that he had designs on doing in his Batverse that got shut down. And I think that's an underrated plot point here is that if this thing crushes, part 2 crushes, the new owner is like, give me more.
What Britney Spears said, give me more. That's what it'll be. That's what it'll be. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of all we've discussed. We discussed a lot. So yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of the latest on the DC Roundup. Remember, if you haven't heard it anywhere else, you heard it here first. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like, share with your friends, and comment in the comment section below. And we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gym Report.